In the aftermath of Donald Trump's tumultuous presidency and his continued presence on the political stage, one might wonder, how did we get here? How did someone accused of inciting an insurrection, mismanaging classified documents, and undermining the very bedrock of American democracy evade full accountability? Recent actions by the Supreme Court have amplified these concerns, sparking debates over whether judicial decisions have effectively pardoned Trump and undermined the rule of law. Instead of serving as the neutral arbiter of justice, the highest court in the land has issued rulings that many interpret as shielding Trump from accountability. These decisions have emboldened his supporters and muddied the waters of historical truth. This video unpacks the intricate web of legal, political, and institutional failures, including the Supreme Court's controversial role, and explores the broader implications for democracy and the rule of law in the United States. A history of avoiding accountability. The seeds of this judicial quagmire were sown long before Trump entered the political fray. The reluctance to prosecute high-profile figures deemed too big to jail has plagued American jurisprudence for decades. For instance, in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, no major banking executives faced significant consequences despite widespread evidence of misconduct that led to economic devastation. This precedent of non-accountability fostered a culture where the powerful could escape justice, eroding public trust in institutions. Trump's own trajectory exemplifies this phenomenon. From allegations of financial improprieties to his controversial use of presidential powers, Trump has frequently skirted legal repercussions. However, the events surrounding the January 6th insurrection and his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election represented a direct challenge to the principles of democracy. These actions demanded accountability, and yet, systemic delays and judicial interventions have created a narrative that Trump is untouchable. The role of the Justice Department and Special Counsel. When Merrick Garland assumed the role of Attorney General, the Justice Department was heralded as a guardian of democracy poised to restore faith in the rule of law. However, critics argued that the department's hesitance to act swiftly against Trump following the January 6th insurrection emboldened his behavior. Garland's delayed appointment of a special counsel to investigate Trump's actions post-election highlighted a cautious approach that some interpreted as a reluctance to confront the political ramifications of prosecuting a former president. This delay had cascading effects. While Trump's legal team mounted defenses that stalled proceedings, the broader public narrative shifted. Supporters claimed that the prolonged investigations were politically motivated, while critics decried the lack of decisive action. The resulting perception that justice was being selectively applied played directly into Trump's rhetoric. The Supreme Court's interventions. The Supreme Court's role in shielding Trump has been particularly controversial. Over the course of several decisions, the court's conservative majority, including justices appointed by Trump himself, has issued rulings that effectively insulated him from accountability. One pivotal example involves the interpretation of the insurrection clause in the 14th Amendment, which bars individuals who have engaged in insurrection from holding public office. Despite overwhelming evidence presented by the January 6th committee that Trump incited the Capitol riot, the Supreme Court's majority dismissed the applicability of this clause. This decision, critics argue, rewrote the plain language of the Constitution, granting Trump a judicial pardon for his actions. Additionally, the court delayed critical trials and issued rulings that undermined investigations into Trump's conduct. For instance, their handling of cases related to Trump's retention of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and his efforts to overturn the 2020 election displayed a pattern of judicial deference. These delays and dismissals created a roadmap for Trump to avoid accountability, further solidifying the perception of a judiciary compromised by partisan interests. Parallels to historical injustices. The current moment echoes past periods of judicial complicity in systemic injustice. Following the Civil War, the promise of Reconstruction was dismantled through legal and political machinations. Courts played a central role in rolling back progress, enabling the rise of Jim Crow laws and disenfranchising African Americans. Similarly, today's judicial decisions risk whitewashing Trump's actions, enabling a revisionist narrative that frames his presidency and post-election behavior as legitimate. This revisionism is particularly dangerous as it feeds into a broader effort to normalize anti-democratic behavior. The Supreme Court's actions have signaled to millions of Americans that Trump's attempts to undermine democracy were not only permissible but justified. This emboldens future leaders who may seek to exploit similar legal loopholes to consolidate power. Implications for democracy and the rule of law. The implications of these judicial decisions extend far beyond Trump. By undermining accountability, the Supreme Court has eroded public trust in democratic institutions. The perception of a two-tiered justice system, one for the powerful and one for everyone else, has deepened divisions and fueled political cynicism. Moreover, these rulings have set dangerous precedents. If a president can incite an insurrection and avoid consequences, what limits exist on executive power? The court's actions have blurred the lines between legality and legitimacy, leaving Americans to grapple with fundamental questions about the future of their democracy. The path forward. Organizing for accountability. Despite these challenges, there remains a path forward. History shows that transformative change often arises from grassroots movements that challenge entrenched power structures. From the labor movements of the early 20th century to the civil rights struggles of the 1960s, collective action has been a powerful force for accountability and reform. A renewed focus on labor organizing could play a pivotal role in resisting authoritarianism and plutocracy. Strong unions not only empower workers, but also serve as bulwarks against concentrated power. Building a broad coalition that includes labor, civil rights organizations, and pro-democracy advocates is essential to countering the current threats to democracy. Additionally, efforts to reform the judiciary must remain a priority. Expanding the Supreme Court, imposing term limits on justices, and enhancing transparency in judicial appointments are potential solutions to restore balance and integrity to the court. The Supreme Court's recent decisions regarding Donald Trump represent a profound challenge to the principles of accountability and justice. By effectively pardoning Trump through judicial fiat, the court has not only undermined the rule of law, but also signaled to future leaders that the guardrails of democracy can be dismantled with impunity. However, this moment also presents an opportunity for collective action. By recognizing the illegitimacy of these rulings and organizing for systemic change, Americans can reclaim their democracy. The fight for accountability is not merely about Trump. It is about ensuring that no individual, no matter how powerful, is above the law. Through sustained activism, vigilance, and reform, the nation can confront this judicial coup and safeguard the democratic ideals that define it.